Yo, what is up, YouTube? Look at this. I made this whole thing for this podcast. So, well, intentionally I saw that the game podcast was taken down. I don't know if it is or not, because I couldn't find it anywhere on the Roblox games or charts. But we made this whole thing, you know what I mean? We got one of the Spirit-led podcasts right here, one of our videos that we made, and then the Army of God, which is one of the games I made. And you know how we say we're in the house of faith, we got up here, which is pretty cool. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started talking about some stuff. One of my main things I wanted to talk about was mainly, I'm gonna just tell you some arguments that I like to use proving the existence of God and how he is real, which the first one is the cosmological argument, which says that everything that begins to exist has a cause, which is simple. And in science, we have never seen or never observed anything coming from nothing, or nothing coming from nothing, something coming from nothing. Say that better. But whole argument is that everything that begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist, so therefore the universe has a cause, which I mean, it's quite obvious. You don't ever walk into your room and see shattered glass on the floor and think, oh, it shattered itself. Or you don't ever walk into your house and the TV is on and you don't say, oh, it turned on by itself. So basically, every effect has a cause. So the universe began to exist. It's not eternal, it's not infinite, and it's not always around. It's a contingent thing, which we're gonna dive into that later this episode, where you'll learn what necessity and contingent things are, and one of the arguments that I explain in some kind of stance. But science agrees that the universe is not eternal, it's not infinite, and it's not always around. So let's just say this. Every major field of modern science, physics, thermodynamics, points to the same truth. The universe had a beginning. See, the Big Bang wasn't something exploding in space. It was space itself exploding into being. Time itself starting. Matter itself appearing. And before that, there was nothing. There was no space, no time, no matter, no energy. So, if time began, the cause must be timeless. If space began, the cause must be outside of space. And if matter began, the cause must be immaterial. And if energy began, the cause must be powerful enough to create it. Which means the universe must be, based timeless, spaceless, immaterial, all-powerful, self-existence, impersonal, because impersonal forces can't choose to create, if you get what I mean. But it sounds exactly, I'm basically just describing God at this point. So, whole thing, if everything that begins to exist has a cause, and the universe began, then something else caused it. And that cause cannot be inside the universe, it has to be on it. And anything inside the universe, stars, planets, atoms, energy, those all begin to exist too. So the cause must be outside the system, outside of time, outside of physics, outside of matter. So, and it must be a being without a beginning. And if the cause also had a cause, you'll get an infinite chain of causes, and nothing ever begins. At some point, you will need an uncaused cause, a necessary being. Basically, yeah, you'll understand what necessity and contingent means later. But you need something eternal and something without a beginning and something that has enough power to make existence happen. And that being is who the Bible calls Exodus 3:14, I am that I am, the one who is simply just God. I mean, you can't just say that it's basing this off probability is completely illogical. I mean, if you think about it, what are the chances of this all happening in coincidence? It's basically, let's say like a fraction, like 1 over like 10 trillion to the power of 20. It's a giant number, and that's quite a small probability, and it's not likely to happen. It probably won't even happen. But this is how we know that there truly is a designer. But let's explain this. John 1, somewhere in John 1 says, John 1 verse 1, and then I think the verse in 14 also says, John 1 verse 1 says that in the beginning was the Word, and then John 1:14 says that, and the Word became flesh. So the cause of the universe became the savior of your soul. This is why the cosmological argument is powerful, because it doesn't just prove a God, but it logically points logically toward the God revealed in Jesus Christ. So, listen, if anyone believes the universe began, nothing comes from nothing, and beginnings need causes, then they're already halfway to God and don't even know it. And the cosmological argument removes excuses. It tears down doubts it basically tears down their doubts that they have about there truly being a eternal being. But yeah, it's a pretty good argument. I don't like using it sometimes because I don't know. Sometimes it can be an easy argument to break down in some stance they can put it, but it's a pretty hit of an argument, and I don't mainly use it though, but you can. But I'm gonna talk about the fine-tuning argument, which is basically, let's just say this: why does the universe look like it was designed specifically for life? And there are laws built into reality: the strength of gravity, the speed of light, the expansion rate of the universe, the mass of electrons and protons, and the cosmological constant, and the strong and weak nuclear forces. They're not flexible, they're exact. And let's just say, if any of these would be changed by like 1 part in a trillion, you wouldn't be here. There would be no stars, no planets, no atoms, no life, and it'll be just nothing. And those constants sit on a razor's edge. It's like the universe sort of has, like, I always say this, it has like 1,000 knobs, and each one has to be set perfectly, or the entire thing is gonna collapse. And that's what fine-tuning means. And let's just say this. I always use this analogy, but say that there's a dial that goes 0 to 10, and now imagine that life can only exist if the dial is at like 7.00000000000, we keep on going on zeros, 1, which is a pretty big number. I mean, that's a small probability that you'll actually get that number. But that's basically those physical constants we're talking about, like gravity, cosmological constants, and nuclear forces. And let's say this: people who don't believe basically say, "Oh, this all just happened." And if we think about it logically, scientifically, and mathematically, it's completely false, because random chance cannot explain fine-tuning, because you can't gamble with numbers that big and pretend it's rational. And here are the only options. We got physical necessity, which is saying that, people say that the universe had to be this way, which is completely false, because there's no natural law that forces constances to be what they are, and they could have been anything. And chance, if we're going off chance, like luck, I hate to say that, but It's mathematically impossible. Let's just say those odds are so small. It's like saying you flipped a coin and it landed on heads for 14 billion years straight. I mean, it's never gonna happen. It's too big. It's too small of a chance. I mean, but that's basically the whole concept of the fine-tuning argument. Alright. So now we're gonna be talking about the contingency argument, proving God's existence, which this is where we're gonna learn what contingent and necessity things are, if you don't know already. But the whole argument is built, the contingency argument is one of the oldest, and I would say it's one of the strongest arguments for the existence of God, and it's been used by Aristotle, Aquinas, Leibniz, and so many modern philosophers. And let's just say one of the most important questions we can ask is, why is there something rather than nothing? So the contingency argument is basically showing that the existence of the universe requires a necessary being, that something must exist, cannot fail to exist, and explains why anything else exists at all. So a contingent thing is something that could fail to exist, and it depends on something else for its existence. For example, us, stars, atoms, time, space, and Earth. That's what I meant by Earth is a contingent thing. It depends on something else for its existence. Rather that be forces, rather that be God, whatever. But everything around you is contingent. You didn't have to exist. The universe didn't have to exist. Every physical thing needs an explanation. And a necessary thing is something that can't, or something that cannot exist and has the reason for its existence within itself, and it is uncaused, and it doesn't depend on anything else for its existence. Well, that's quite dumb to say, because I said it cannot exist, but it doesn't depend on anything else. I said that wrong, but yeah, it doesn't depend on anything else. So if anything or if something exists necessarily, its non-existence is impossible. And the contingency argument depends on the rational principle. If we look at it, it says that everything that exists has an explanation of its existence, either in the necessity of its own nature or an external cause. So this foundational assumption behind science, logic, and reason, we assume causes for everything, but we do not accept things just popped into being. So the universe changes, like I said, it begins to exist, consists of parts, and could have been different and could not have existed at all. So that means the universe is not necessary, it's contingent. Just explained why. And if it's contingent, then it needs an explanation outside of itself. A universe is made of dependent things, which means it cannot be self-existent or self-explaining. Imagine like this. Like you have a chain hanging from a ceiling, and each chain is held up link by another link and by another link. But there's no ceiling to hang the chain on there. The entire chain would fall. So in the same way, you exist because of your parents because of their parents, humanity because of Earth, and Earth because of the universe. But you cannot have an infinite chain of contingent causes with no necessary foundation. An infinite chain of dependency still needs something non-dependent to hold it up. So once you follow the logic, you'll begin to think there must be a necessary being that explains the existence of all contingent things. The being must be uncaused, infinite, independent, self-existent, eternal, and immaterial, and all-powerful. That's what it's basically just describing God. I mean, like, from these past arguments, those how would I do this? Describing words, adjectives, are describing God. And the reason why the necessary being must be personal, I said this earlier in one of the, I think I said it in the fine-tuning, that, what did I say? I mean, it's whatever, you could go back. But the necessary being must be personal because the universe began to exist, and a timeless cause must choose to create a universe at a moment in time, because choice will require will requires mind, and mind requires a personalhood. So therefore, the necessary being cannot be an abstract force, and it must be personal. Only a personal God can decide to create. Which, those are the 3 arguments that I got, and those 3 arguments I like to use the most, and they're pretty good. I mean, I like not just to hear this and say that that's what it's based off, but to look into it too, because it's basically looking into some old philosophy and logic and reasoning. But you have a good day, and I'll see you on the next episode.